So, hi Debbie, it's so glad to have you back. We were here last week, and so with the schedule off for June, it's like 2 weeks in a row. So yay!
Yeah, quick turnaround this time. And so I've been thinking, as I always do when I get prepared to do this webinar, what shows up, right? What's applicable? What do I see as a therapist who runs a healing group for women, and it's Prodependence based, as well as the partners that I see on an individual basis in therapy. And one of the things that seems to be a reoccurring theme is that every betrayed partner needs the betrayer to do certain things to support them. So we're going to talk a bit today about what shows up in the betrayed partner's healing journey and what they need. Now, my recommendation is that if you are struggling as a betrayed partner in getting the support from the betraying addict partner that you need, this might be a webinar that you can go back and watch together and take note if there's anything that really applies to you. Maybe you just even show them that bit or piece of the recording today. I'm going to begin today with a quote, and excuse me, I'm not at home. I'm actually out of town and coming from the beautiful Park City, Utah area. And so I've got my notes a little different today. So I'm going to use start with a quote by Shirley Glass. She was an expert in infidelity. She's no longer living, but I loved this quote. She said this: "One of the ironies of healing from infidelity or betrayal trauma is that the perpetrator must become the healer. On the other hand, betraying partners sometimes find it hard to stay engaged with their betrayed partners or spouses when they know they are the source of such intense pain." And so it's that quandary that's back and forth is, you created this attachment wound in me, and in an ideal situation, I need to be there, have you there with me to help me heal from the attachment wounding that you caused. So today we're going to talk about, like I mentioned, how the betrayed partner can be supported in their healing recovery. And we're going to identify some of the struggles that the betrayed partner experiences. And then I'm going to follow it up with, here's the type of support I've heard women say they need. And so this might be a specific way for you to identify, yes, that's what I need my partner to do, or that's what I need him to hear and understand. If the addict partner reacts negatively to their betrayed partner, oftentimes the betrayal, the crisis in the betrayal is exacerbated. It's even harder to recover. And that's what I see show up time and time again in my office and in my groups. And there's a reason for that. We'll talk about that. So one of the things that also comes up in my group is we'll talk about kind of support that the women need from their betraying partners. And I will hear them say, well, are the men in the men's group learning about this? And I do know that they approach in the men's group how to create safety for their partners. I'm not sure that it's as specific as we sometimes get in women's group, because they come in and we're processing specific situations. So if any of you out there have a situation where you're trying to figure out how to get support from your betraying partner, please ask questions, or please put comments, even in that question part for us that says, hey, here's what's worked for me. Any additional ideas that I could use in this area? That would be so helpful, because we'd like to be able to meet your needs today. Remember that the emphasis that Prodependence comes from is that we want to create healthy attachment after we've had the disruption, right? The attachment wounding from betrayal. So I'm going to put, down some foundational facts that if a betraying partner could understand these things, my betrayed partners say this would be so helpful. First of all, when a betrayed partner reacts differently than she ever did before, when she becomes somebody that you're not familiar with because she's reacting to the trauma, understand that this is normal. This is a reaction to a life-changing event, and her safety is at risk. So some of the behaviors she goes into are safety-seeking behaviors. And if you look at it through those lenses, then you'll be able to step out of your own shame and step into those lenses of compassion. I say, put them on, and then you can understand why your partner might be reacting the way that he or she is. Also, there's a lot of grieving that goes along in the healing process, and grieving can show up at any time. We've talked about this in detail, especially, grief has all sorts of parts to it: sadness, depression, anger, just to name a few. And so we've got to allow the betrayed partner to grieve as long as she needs to grieve, because it's a process. Oftentimes the betrayed partner will want their betrayed partner, the betraying partner will want the betrayed partner to get over it really quickly and just get better. Look, I'm doing so much better. You should be feeling better, but understand that it's a process. Also, that the betraying partner, the addict partner's behaviors can positively or negatively influence the betrayed partner's recovery. So it's so important that we learn to work together. And I believe Dr. Rob also believes this, and that is that the betraying partner, part of their recovery work, the addict partner, is to support their betrayed partner. That's a piece of it. So let's talk about what the betrayed partners experience. I know in the past we've talked about the shock and the disbelief, and then stepping into recognizing, oh my gosh, this is my new reality. So oftentimes what you might experience as a betrayed partner is, in that shock and disbelief stage, you almost feel numb. It's like, I can't believe this is happening to me. It's almost like you shut down. Sometimes emotions get very, very frozen. And it can be a little confusing at first to the betraying partner, because they're wanting some kind of response from you. Or maybe they might think, oh, hey, this went really well, and they're feeling so much better, but yet you're kind of stuck in that shock, denial, that frozen state. Oftentimes, once you start to come out of that, and the betrayed partner is recognizing that they are coming to terms with the new reality, they start asking lots of questions. They're trying to take those puzzle pieces, the bits and pieces, and try to fit them together really in a nice and neat fashion. But betrayal isn't that. So oftentimes, because they're feeling like life is crashing in on them, they're trying to make sense. That's when emotions start to come back in. So all of a sudden you might see the betrayed partner swinging. So you might notice as a betrayed partner that your emotions can be all over the place. Sometimes betrayed partners start to have a lot of shame around the reality of their partner's acting out behaviors, how it's really affected them. So they even go into their own shame. And in this moment, they feel so isolated. They have all these intense emotions and they don't know who to turn to. Sometimes this is made worse because you've got the addict betraying partner who's in their own shame, and they don't want the betrayed partner to turn to anybody and tell anybody about it. So what I have heard the betrayed partners in my groups tell me that they need is that they need recognition from the betraying partner that their life has been altered, that life is different, and it's not ever going to be the same. But the hope, and they need to hold out hope as the recovering partner, that I'm going to do my recovery work and I want to get back to a different life, a better life, a more authentic life, one with more openness, more truth. I want to build stronger trust. So if the betraying partner can use that focus and somehow verbalize it in a way the betrayed partner can hear it, that's very, very helpful. The addict betraying partner needs to be emotionally available. That's what I've heard my betrayed partners say. They say, you know what, I go to them and I'm having these intense emotions and I just need to talk it out. And what they meet is either somebody who shuts down, or somebody who gets very defensive, or somebody who's using logic. And neither one of those works, because in that moment, that betrayed partner needs someone who will just hold space. And right now they need the person who's created the attachment injury to be that person, so they can just get it out and work it through that way. Something that's very difficult for betrayed partners is if they are having these strong emotions, if is their addict betraying partner is critical of them and tells them that they shouldn't have that type of reaction. So you should never criticize a betrayed partner for any kind of reactions. Now there's a couple of, exceptions to that. We've talked about that. One is rage. And I work with the women in our groups on, rage and understanding rage and what to do when you get to that point, what's underneath it, and what are some of the possible reasons you're doing it. Maybe it is for safety seeking, but in that moment, there needs to be boundaries put into place around it and stepping out of the rage and finding healthy support, using your recovery skills and tools, getting grounded again. Another one is domestic violence. A betraying partner should never be hit or hurt physically by the betrayed partner. So that's another one. Those are exceptions. And in that, boundaries need to put into place. Safety is of utmost importance there. The other thing is, I've heard betrayed women say that they need a lot of support and encouragement. They need their partner to give them permission to reach out to trustworthy people so that they don't have to be alone in this, which means that addict betraying partner, they have to manage their own shame on that. And oftentimes I will talk with the betrayed partners about, okay, how can you go back to your spouse or your partner and have a discussion about this? Because you need to be pretty firm in the fact that you, as a betrayed partner, you need other people. That's why groups are so incredible. Which reminds me, I worked with somebody for a couple of years who hadn't joined a group. And finally, this particular individual realized that, you know what, doing this alone and with just my partner, it's not getting me anywhere. Minute this person got into group, all sorts of shifts and changes in a positive direction, much more grounded, people to turn to, people who understand, where there is compassion and there's no judgment, where at any time, the individual is triggered, she can reach out to the group and get support and empathy and ideas on how to stay grounded and how to handle it. So it's so important in those early days, as you're starting to shift into that, this is my new reality and the emotions are starting to come in. It's really important that the betrayed partner is supported by the betraying partner in getting the help that he or she needs. There's going to be confusion about everything. That's the other thing my partners say, especially in the very beginning. They are so disoriented. Sometimes they're forgetful. They're trying to, again, like I told you, piece this puzzle together. And it's almost like, their brain can't even wrap around it. So sometimes they can't think straight. You'll see betrayed partners asking a lot of questions, sometimes repeating the same question over and over again. And understand that that's just part of coming to terms with the new reality. And they may want a lot of details. So in this moment, they're so confused. I'm trying to figure this out. I'm trying to make sense of it. And so they will oftentimes turn to the betraying partner and say, okay, so tell me this, and this. They may even end up, because they're so confused, that's when they go in and do some of the safety seeking, where they're looking through emails and phone, text messages and phone calls and phone records and bank statements and all sorts of things like that. So what they need from the betraying addict partner is, first of all, they need to be treated with gentleness and kindness. That's what my betrayed partners have told me. I need them to understand. I need to hear back from my betraying partner that they understand why I'm confused or I'm asking all these questions, and to have this openness and willingness to answer those questions no matter how often, even if it's the same question on repeat. The betrayed partner also needs the betraying partner to understand that this is part of their trauma, and that as they heal, understanding that as they heal, and if the partner is willing to provide all this information, it assists them with their healing so they can move out of their trauma. So see, it's so important that we work with each other on this to help create that healing environment. Again, provide all answers to all questions that are asked. Now, there's just one exception we've talked about in the past, and that is if you've got formal disclosure set up. Oftentimes, I will challenge the betrayed partner to write down the questions, hold on to the questions, make them part of the formal disclosure, rather than going in and asking for some really difficult details. Sometimes the betrayed partners haven't quite gotten all the skills and tools down. So going back in and getting a lot of details may traumatize them in that moment. So if they do it, it's part of safety seeking, that there's no right or wrong way. My encouragement is, I want you to stay grounded. I want to do this in a healing environment. I want to do it so we don't add any more trauma. So sometimes I will work with the betrayed partners early on to help them kind of understand this about the safety seeking and wanting all of the details about every acting out that was ever done over the course of every year that it ever occurred. So the other thing is, if the betraying partner will be really open and provide access to phones and emails and give passwords and provide safety in having open access, transparency in all of those areas, it makes all the difference in the world. Also disclosing any hidden emails, unknown emails, apps that they've used and deleted. All of those things will help clear up any confusion. What happens with the betraying partner, with the betrayed partner, is that their minds go into lots of big stories. And so they might hear something said and their mind creates pictures, and they have a running movie, and they have, their crazy monkey mind, all that chatter in their head that's going nonstop. So it's really important that you provide the details they need, especially in those early stages of healing. So I want to talk about some specific safety seeking that the betrayed partner will go into. So I want to talk about the need to know. And that kind of, correlates with what we just talked about a little bit. A lot of the betrayed partners need to ask the whys. There's a lot of why this, why that, why, because they're trying to make sense of their new reality. And oftentimes they will go back and they will repeatedly ask for more detail. So just be aware of that. And we tell the addict partners, you know what, you've got to be open about it. You have to be straightforward. You need to check in and see exactly what they need to know, because sometimes they will only provide partial information, and that can get these betrayed partners activated, and they kind of go into that, into hypoarousal. So we want to keep them out of, that limbic part of their brain. So just being straightforward, being willing to answer anything, and recognizing that if their partner is stuck on the whys, repeatedly asking over and over again, sometimes it's not that they want an answer. Sometimes they're kind of questioning or wondering why the pain. It might be more about that than the details. Why is this happening to me? They're still kind of in that disbelief stage. So if you can recognize that, you can have more patience as a betraying partner. And again, like I told you, part of the safety seeking is they're going to be searching for evidence and trying to collect data, collect evidence. And I've heard from the women who come into group all sorts of things they've done. And so I recognize that this is just a need to know that you're safe. I need to know that you've told me everything, that now you're being open and honest and truthful from the moment you disclosed everything at this point in time, moving forward until everything's been disclosed, and you're consistently truthful. And I know you're telling me, everything that I need to know or I ask to know. So don't ever refuse to answer a question. That's what I've heard women say. When my partner won't answer a question, that takes me right back down the rabbit hole. I'm wondering what else he's hiding, or what is there to this story that I don't know about that he's not letting me know. Don't keep your partner in the dark about anything, is what my clients have said. I want to know everything, even if, for example, they go and they make a purchase that's over a certain dollar amount. I want to know about it before I look at the bank statement and see that maybe money was taken out or there was a charge to a place I don't recognize. So even those little things are really important, because, the betrayed partner is going to ask why, and be really truthful in filling in the gaps. So making sure every aspect of your life, that's what the partners need. That's what they've told me. I just want them to be honest, even with the little things. The other thing is, whenever the betrayed partner hears something difficult, what they've told me is helpful is if their partner follows it up with taking accountability and with expressing remorse and regret, even some empathy. So I imagine you're sad. It makes me feel so sad that I've hurt you like this, rather than just an I'm sorry, or here's the information. They need to be reassured again and again and again, is what the betrayed partners tell me. And the other thing is, when betrayed partners ask the whys, it's not necessarily because they're questioning, their partner. Oftentimes it is, but sometimes it's, again, like I told you, they're just questioning their reality. So understand that, because it's easy for the betraying partner, their shame to come up and to get really defensive and not ask questions or answer questions and turn it back around on the partner. And then the betrayed partners, man, they will get activated and their emotions will escalate really, really fast. And so that's when you see the next safety seeking, which is that lack of self-control. I just made this kind of an umbrella. So maybe from an outsider's perspective looking in, we might see this as, oh my gosh, there's this lack of self-control. But in reality, they're having these intense emotions because their brain's telling them they're under threat. And so in the safety seeking, what they're going to do is they're going to start protesting the attachment wound. So you're going to see somebody get maybe angry. You might see them cry a lot. You might sense resentment in the betrayed partner. They might be bitter. So the way they say things might have a little edge to it. They might also be frustrated. So they're short in how they respond to you. So all of that, again, if we can look at it as, this is my partner protesting the fact that there's been an attachment wound here, and that they want to make sure that there's safety and security in this relationship. I find that these strong emotions happened a lot in the early days of recovery, and those that are really doing their healing work, I find that they regulate fairly quickly. Now, understand this, those emotions can come back up at any time. It's not like they're going to go away. They may even come back up 3 years later after you've been doing recovery. The difference is now you understand why you're reacting that way, and you have the skills and the tools necessary to be able to manage it, get grounded, understand what's going on, and then reach out and ask for your needs and how you need those to be met. And again, like I told you, oftentimes this occurs when the brain's been hijacked and you're in your limbic system. So what I've heard my betrayed partners tell me they need when this happens is they need their betraying partners to allow them to have those emotions. And just to sometimes sit there, and especially if they're angry, just hold that space. Let them be angry. Don't protest their anger. Don't defend yourself. Don't try to manage them out of it. Just let them be angry. So we're going to let them vent. They need patience, and you need to listen to the betrayed partner's feelings without interrupting them, which is hard. It's really hard because we've got to stay grounded in that moment. And remember, whenever there's that, attachment wounding, both partners are fighting to try to get reattached again. So we have to have that awareness. And the other thing I've told some of the betraying partners is sometimes the emotions that a betrayed partner will exhibit don't correlate with the circumstance. It may not make sense. So you just need to recognize this is the betrayal trauma. This is just coming up. This is the attachment wounding, showing itself. And so we need to have a lot of compassion, like I said, and patience. That's what the women tell me that they need. Also, if their partners could understand what triggers them, what activates them. There are certain circumstances. It might even be, for example, I've had betrayed partners that certain television shows, they don't want their betraying partners watching anymore. And so if they come in to the room and they're watching it, right then they're activated. So that awareness and working together on, okay, here's what triggers me and here's what I need you to help me with. So the betrayed partners need support in that. And you've got to talk specific. And sometimes the betrayed partner doesn't know it's going to activate her system or trigger her. And so as it comes up, just recognize it's betrayal trauma and allow the betrayed partner to share what she needs and how she needs it handled. And then you've got to honor that. So for example, some of my betrayed partners don't want their husbands going to the movies alone and seeing movies that have certain content in them. And that may not be forever, but for right now in the healing recovery journey that she's on, that might be something that's going to be necessary. Okay. Another thing I see in safety seeking is the betrayed partner needs the betraying partner to take responsibility. So they just want them, you know, repeatedly the betrayed partner might want them to hear the specific ways that, you know, they recognize the betrayed partner's hurts. That's one way you can take responsibility. I need you to even feel the same kind of hurt I'm feeling. Sometimes the betrayed partner in a safety seeking will inflict pain. And she's just doing that because she wants him to relate to what she's going to. I also see that a betrayed partner will get really anxious and angry if she's seeing a lack of recovery work in the betraying partner. And so sometimes that's part of her safety seeking, right? If I get angry and share how angry I am, maybe you'll hear me and maybe you'll see how important this is to me and you'll step in and take responsibility for your recovery and you'll start doing the recovery work you need to do. So if you can understand that. So what you need to do is those betrayed partners, they need to hear your recovery plan as a betraying partner. They need you to verbalize it. They need you to talk to you about your experiences. They want you to get into therapy and find a qualified therapist. The women I talk to, they say, I need to see them consistently going. Consistently, I need to see him making his own appointments to his therapist and going on a consistent basis. I don't want to have to be the one reminding him because then my betraying partner will say to me, you're controlling my recovery. And in reality, what she's asking is, no, please get in and get the help you need, get the support you need so we can be okay, so we can repair this. So if you can understand that. The other thing is apologize. Like I've said, take accountability as often as you need to, rather than defending yourself and flipping it around and shifting the blame back to your partner. When a betrayed partner gets blamed for something, again, it is so traumatic, it takes her back into it. She may not react appropriately. It's true. We can set boundaries and put boundaries in place around that and request and, you know, put that framework in place where, you know, I will communicate with you when we can do it in a grounded way. I care about you, but if you're calling me names and you're telling me how horrible and awful I am, then we're not getting anywhere and I want to get somewhere with you. So that betraying partner can say, let's put a pause on this. And can we come back in an hour? And can we continue this? Because I want to take responsibility for what your needs are. I want to know what you need from me. That would be a great way to do it. So just acknowledging it. Be aware. I think a betrayed partner would love the addict betraying partner to understand if they gaslight, how they gaslight, and what it looks like, and recognize it when they're in it. So when, you know, the partner gets really confused, the betrayed partner gets confused, sometimes it's because there's some gaslighting going on. So it's really important to have that self-awareness so that if you're doing some gaslighting, old techniques or behaviors that you used to use in the past, recognize if it's gaslighting and step out of that. You know, another thing that will come up is that the betrayed partners will also, you know, for safety seeking, will try to control the betrayed partner's recovery. So just know that that happens. And we talked about the needs there. And so in conclusion, I just want to share a few just really important reminders that my betrayed partners bring in is if my betraying partner could just understand this aspect, it would shift everything. So number one is if the betraying partner could understand their shame and the behaviors it leads them into. it would be so helpful, because then I wouldn't have that resistance, right? I wouldn't have to defend myself. I wouldn't have to be logical and try to prove my point to you every time. I could feel safe and secure with you if it's not flipped around, if I'm not blamed, if you just don't walk away when they're in the middle of something really difficult. So that's an important one. Another one is if the addict betraying partner would just realize that the betrayed partner wants to feel better. So everything they do is to assist them in feeling better, meaning more secure, meaning safer with you, secure about the future of the relationship. That would make all the difference in the world. And then the last thing is, if the betrayed partner can hear the betraying partner express commitment on a regular basis to their recovery, to assisting their partner in his or her recovery from betrayal trauma, and in healing the relationship. If that is on repeat, and then the actions are congruent with that message, healing is so much easier for the person who has experienced betrayal trauma. You know, there's so much more. I just kind of barely scratched the surface on a lot of things, but hopefully I've been able to share with you some of the things that have come into group and into my office. Some of those betrayed partners have shared with me and said, if only my betrayed partner would do this, it would make all the difference in the world.
This is great, and your express commitment and express commitment and show it, like, and you mentioned it earlier, and to verbalize the recovery plan, but also the actions. I mean, it always is. Lip service is lip service. So really showing what you are doing, but it's that commitment to the relationship, to recovery. All of that. I was thinking when you were talking earlier about all of this, and I thought, this is no wonder this work is so difficult, and why we always say you need qualified professionals, because you've got two people whose needs are massive of their own, and they're not in alignment. When somebody is in shame, and is shut down, and the partner's looking for connection and that commitment, and so navigating that space, and how do we support two people so that they can do the healing work, and move forward in a different way. And like I said, it was just one of those huge reminders of, like, when someone is, you talked about, the shame and the behaviors. Addicts are so filled with shame. I hear partners often who are like, I can't talk to him about this because he'll go into a shame. And I was like, and how unfortunate is that? Because his shame is keeping you from saying your truth, from holding your boundaries. So it's this massive problem for both and each of them, to have that. So much. I was so caught by the, express commitment and actively show that. But the addict being critical of the betrayed partner, I hear often of the partners going, he's telling me I should just get over it. Like, when are you ever going to move on? And that criticism, which again deflects and pushes away. So with both people, if we can remember that the goal is to heal our hurts, but also to heal the relationship. I think if we can do that, then we stand a chance of going imperfectly, but going forward on a path. So, but yeah, I just, the emotion swinging, that's so true. And addicts are so shut down with emotions, or they'll rage too. I love that you said, raging and domestic violence are absolutely no-nos on either side. So, and you shared too, taking a pause and coming back. And I think it's okay to say, I don't know what to do right now. You can tell me what you need. But otherwise, let's go talk to our people, our posses, and then come back so that we can do this better. So, but I so appreciate you, all and the amazing work you're doing. I know it helps. And for those of you joining or online, watching, like, please know that we are committed to, there is healing. So many people move forward in a very different way, and and in a more truthful, honest relationship. So it isn't like you go back to what you had. No, because that was lies and disconnection. um the other thing I will mention, and then we'll get to the questions, but you talked about the attachment wounds, and and both people having the attachment wounds, and yes, knowing what those wounds are and being able to go, I have a, like, that's that, I need to attend to that. I need to do the self-care so that I am in the best position. If I don't get enough sleep one night, I know I'm going to be a little, I'm going to have a little less, bandwidth if I'm not taking care of myself. So I have to do some basic things to take care of myself, and then, then I can, step into things. So I was struggling on Monday morning, because you mentioned, getting support too, but I was just having one of those days where my attitude was completely off. And so I was like, I am going to go to my noon meeting and go meet with people. And nothing in my life changed except for my attitude. Like, it completely reframed. And it was such a powerful reminder of how important it is to just take that pause rather than trying to muscle through and, like, complete shift. And everybody else was still the same. The only person that changed was me and my attitude. So,
Yeah.
okay.
Can I circle back around really
Please.
quick, Cindy, before we
Yeah,
ask a
yeah, yeah.
question? Because I know a lot of people who join this webinar are really searching for answers, right? And there's a lot of difficult situations you're in. There's a lot of trauma, a lot of hardship right now. And this area that I work in, I just want you to know that I see, like you'd said earlier, Tammy, that two people working together in recovery, coming back together, it is miraculous and it is possible. And I am such a believer in human resiliency and in people being able to grow in capacity and in willingness to create this connection. And so I see this every day when I go to work. And so even though I work with really hard situations, there is this resiliency I see, and it can come so fast, relatively. It may feel like forever for the partners in this, but it is just miraculous. And I can't tell you how many times I've heard them say, I don't ever want to go through betrayal or go through this addiction again. Never, ever, ever do I want to go through that. But I am so grateful where we are at today. Our relationship has never been this good, this open, this deep, whatever it is. So I just want to offer some hope to everybody who listens that it's there.
I agree. Yeah, and that's what I was talking to somebody, about. I live in active recovery. I don't live in my active addiction, and that shifts everything. It's not just about not acting out; it's about living differently. I was at another 12-step last night, and you talked about somebody starting to do the group work and stuff, and I asked if it was okay if I asked this person a question, and I asked this person where they were, had they done the fourth step. He mentioned he has not acted out in like 5 years, and I thought, but he hadn't quite gotten around to those steps, and I thought, wow, this is exactly what, like, I could tell he was so struggling. I would have never given him that many days of not acting out. So doing the work, being here, thank you all for being here, being engaged, wanting to learn, wanting to grow, shifts things. And then the struggle is, we still have life stuff, but there's other people, and you have tools to use to do life differently. So recovery is great. And so first question, I'm the partner who has betrayed his wife with the use of porn and all the lies that come with it. I have been sober for over a year. Yay. You brought up the point today, how the betrayed partner feels isolated. My wife explained, my wife explained to me recently that she feels trapped and isolated. Can you elaborate on how she is feeling and how I can show up for her?
Sure. So there's several things there. First of all, yay, you've been in recovery for a year. I'm hoping it's recovery, not just sobriety. There's a difference. And the sobriety means, I'm not acting out, but I'm not actively doing recovery work that I need to understand the core issue and to add those skills and tools. And hopefully your wife is seeing that. And she's able to witness the work that you are doing to maintain that sobriety. That makes a huge difference in all the world. I would encourage your wife to talk a little more about why she feels isolated and why she feels trapped, and just sit and listen if she's willing to talk. I tell my clients and even my couples I work with, really listen for the feeling words when somebody is sharing that with you, because that really tells you what's going on internally. Is it because she's so sad and she can't get out of her sadness, or the grief is just so deep she feels stuck in the grief? And definitely, if she's isolated and the only person she's turning to is you for support and help, again, if she doesn't understand her own betrayal trauma, how that shows up as far as affecting our brains, right? And we're living out of that limbic part of our brain, the physical symptoms, the triggers, everything we just talked about, then it is going to feel like she's trapped, in this cycle of ongoing, really difficult, hard emotions. So encourage her to talk about it as much as possible and just sit there and hold space. That would be one of my recommendations. The other one is, like I've just mentioned, let her see you doing your recovery work, so she sees that you're doing it with consistency, that you're showing up for her, you're, staying grounded yourself, you're increasing your capacity to help her, when she's struggling, and then encourage her to get other support. Help her maybe identify who she could turn to. Give her permission to turn to certain people, to talk to them. It's really interesting. I have lots of betrayed women who come in and see me, and nobody knows what they're going through but the partner who was the one who betrayed them. Whether it's sexual acting out, sex addiction, porn addiction, or whatever it is. And I find that those are the ones that have a tendency to feel stuck, feel trapped. They are so isolated. And it's almost like I see them like they're spinning their wheels to some degree. They can't get traction. The minute they reach out to somebody and share, somebody they can go to, and I'm talking a healthy person, and many times these partners that I work with, when they go reach out to a good friend, will find out they've dealt with the same thing. And now all of a sudden we've got this instant bond where there's no judgment and there's somebody there to support them. But I really would encourage your wife, if she's willing, to reach out just to one person, start with that. And then she could even drop in on the sex and relationship healing groups. There's some drop-in groups. You can come in anonymously. You can be a part of that group as well. If she doesn't want to go meet with a group in person, have her start small, but really encourage her to reach out. There is so much healing in that connection. As human beings, we need to be connected to other people. And I just don't see recovery happening when we're isolated. It just isn't. It's like swimming upstream, in a raging current. It's just not easy to do. So encourage her to do that. I think she's just feeling so overwhelmed, and she is feeling uncertain on what to do next. And I think it's just she's stuck in all of those internal feelings that come up, right? And even the stories in her head, I call them with my clients, that are so big and taking her to all these terrible, awful places. Because in addition to that, she's not only doubting, the integrity of the relationship, the future of the relationship, the reality of what her life really was, because she didn't know about the porn use, but she's also dealing with things like how she views her own body and her inadequacies. And it's very complex. So if she can reach out, if she's willing to go see a therapist who deals with betrayal trauma, oh, that will help her so much. And I believe that she'll feel less stuck.
All great suggestions. And I mean, Debbie is a qualified professional that works with the trade partners. I mean, so there are people, she is not alone. I love the sexandrelationshiphealing.com. We've got the drop-in groups for betrayed partners. There are amazing, resilient women, and and they're talking about how they're navigating through this. It's not that they're all stuck. There are, I think, less helpful, like the podcast, because then she's just listening. I would love to see her connecting. We have support sessions, 25 or 50 minutes. They're like one time typically, but for addicts, betrayed partners, or for couples that are a support session, via Zoom, and those can be really helpful for just kind of breaking through the ice and getting guidance, for moving forward. There are so many specific resources for betrayed partners. She is not alone, and I think if she can hear from other people, she won't feel so isolated, and she'll know that she doesn't have to do this alone. I really agree too with what Debbie said about you. What is she seeing for you doing your recovery work? We've got the Porn Addiction 101 work group. That's a foundational component. If you've got a solid foundation, you've got your 3-circle plan, you've got peer connections, great. If not, that would be something for you. Out of the Doghouse work group, we offer that each month as well. So there's a lot of resources for each and both of you. I'm glad you're here. These are all recorded. There's hundreds of hours of recordings on sexandrelationshiphealing.com under the resource tab. So keep coming back. Have her join too. That'd be great. So next question: is it normal to also dislike your partner after finding out he acted out?
Absolutely. Very normal. And it's an ironic thing. We talk about ambivalence in group, and even with my partners, I see I can love my partner, right? And I can really, really hate them because they've been acting out. And sometimes that's so confusing because we don't recognize as human beings that we can have duality. I can experience the same two different emotions, opposing emotions about this person. And so, yes, that is very, very normal to dislike your partner. So then what do you do with the dislike, right? Do you sit in it and stew on it and, have your stories get big? My recommendation is no, don't do that. My recommendation is acknowledge right now, I really dislike my partner, and try to kind of identify, okay, what is this bringing up for me? What are the stories I'm telling myself? And what's underneath that? We call them shame-based beliefs, in the work that we do. So what is that belief I have about myself in this moment as, my partner's acted out that is leading me maybe into those feelings of dislike? I would encourage you to journal, get it out of your body, turn to support people, talk it through, not necessarily with your betraying partner. That might, unless they are in that space where they can hear it and hold space and their shame doesn't get, activated, and then it just makes it a bigger mess. Sometimes if you've got that trusted, grounded, healthy, support person, sometimes talking it through with them and just understanding it is normal. And the most important thing is to really identify what it's about. What's it trying to tell you? What's the message there? I don't want you to stay stuck in it, so rather than stuck in the dislike, figure out, okay, there's more to this. So getting to kind of the bottom piece of it. And when I tell my clients, there just might be that betrayal that's still there that hasn't healed. Maybe there's not been enough time. I'm not sure if his acting out has been, since he's, disclosed and he's supposed to be in recovery. And for a lot of my partners, betrayed partners, it's how the betraying partner handles the acting out too that determines whether I like you or I dislike you. So that might be where you've got to do some work, even with your own therapist, to figure out, okay, do I need to put some boundaries in place around this, especially the acting out, so I don't have to keep going into this ambivalence of I hate you, and I love you, I like you, I dislike you, kind of a feeling, because that feels like roller coaster of emotions.
Yeah, the ambivalent love, is absolutely normal, unfortunately, for betrayed partners. I think sometimes it can be helpful. I love the journaling idea as well, but sometimes to almost pick it apart and go, I love this person, I really hate his behaviors. Like sometimes it's that separation. The actions were horrific and horrible and betraying and all of that, but are there good things about them too? Yeah. So it's very confusing. Dr. Rob talks about this often, that when you are indifferent, that's pretty much he sees that as kind of a signal to the end of the relationship. So as when you're having those emotions, and even if they're contradictory, you still care. When you're indifferent, then it's probably, you have emotionally moved on, or are in the process of moving, on from the relationship. So, yeah.
That's a great point. The other thing that you made me think of, I love the fact that you're separating the individual from the behaviors. And I had one of my group members, they put together a first aid kit that kind of they turn to when they're activated and they're triggered and they're in their trauma. So that's got resources in it. And in it, she put a picture of her husband as a little boy, because she has such tender feelings for this little 5-year-old, right? And it reminds her that there is still a part, there's that 5-year-old in her husband that she can still love and like, even though she's hating and disliking the behaviors he's doing. So just another thought.
Yeah, I was thinking, it's like with our kids, it's like, I really love you, but I really hate the behaviors you're displaying right now. And, like sometimes it's, so you going to that, and and it's not an excuse. I mean, the addicts, the betrayal, it's so hurtful. I completely understand it, but it's a bunch of broken people, and that maladaptive coping mechanisms, they didn't learn how to do life, and so they chose something that worked until it didn't, and partners got caught up in in the wreckage of all of that. So how do we move forward differently? You're here. That's that's a step in a direction. So okay. As a betrayed, I grieved for almost 2 years. I could not stop crying. It was exhausting. Even yesterday, I got triggered and cried again a whole day. The unfaithful left me for dead after he did this to me. I just grieved my whole life. I am from the EU, and it is 12 o'clock in the night and my birthday right now. Please send some good vibes. Thank you. In my darkest time, seeking integrity. Web has there when nobody else was. Thank you for your support. We are sending good vibes. So you are not alone. I'm sorry. Happy birthday. I celebrate you. We are celebrating you.
Absolutely. And again, happy birthday as well. I'll send you lots of good vibes, because I know how hard it is in celebrating a birthday, especially when you've had that type of betrayal. So my recommendation is treat yourself well on your birthday, put yourself first, and you owe it to yourself, right? And you are worthy of getting the healing you need. So continue joining groups, make sure that you've got somebody that's there for you, whether it's your own therapist who's helping you through this. And if you continue to do your work, there's going to be better days ahead.
And treat yourself good, even not on your birthday.
Yeah.
365 days a year, do something good for you, because you deserve it. So yeah. Okay, next question. When my SPA husband was acting out, he disconnected from our friendship. And that's in quotes. A lot of awkward silence that leads to conflict. How do we reconnect as friends again? Any suggestions?
Well, my first recommendation or maybe question would be, have you guys been in couples therapy and couples work? I actually do an emotionally focused therapy approach where I look at sometimes that disconnection could be you guys are in a cycle. It's kind of a negative cycle. And what happens is one partner sometimes becomes very avoidant, and therefore they disconnect, and they disconnect for a variety of reasons. One reason is that maybe they don't want to make things worse. And so they're afraid that if they do step into something, that it's just going to get even worse and they somehow can't handle it. The other one is they have a lot of shame. And so their shame causes them to pull away and disconnect. It's unfortunate that you have a lot of awkward silence, because I imagine for you it feels very, very lonely. And like we've talked about, we need connection for healing. So the fact that you're not getting that makes it very, very difficult. On your own, I'm not sure that it's going to be, and I'm talking very realistically, without the help of a third party, you might not be able to identify the pattern that you're in, and maybe even get down to the core of why your husband needs to disconnect, what the reason that is, kind of understanding that, and then teaching, your husband, the therapist, guiding you, directing you on how to reconnect, how to create that connection. I do love the fact that you put friendship down, because one of the real important aspects of healing recovery with both the betrayed partner and the betraying partner is that sometimes you've got to step out of all the recovery stuff and just go have fun and go out and do things and play and go on dates and, go out and, plant a garden together and do activities that are not related to recovery, where you can just reconnect in friendship. Sometimes when we are trying to heal from betrayal trauma and our partner's trying to heal from their addiction, we get so focused on that alone that sometimes we forget that we've got to have that friendship connection as well. And so for you, it might be that you maybe ask your husband, hey, would you be willing to work with me on creating a friendship again and figure out how we can reconnect, and see what, his response is. And he might have some resistance. And so I tell my clients, if they're resistant, rather than getting defensive or getting angry, just get curious and ask them, well, tell me more about that. Or I'm curious, what's your, what would be one of the reasons you would not want to do that? Or what would prevent you from doing that? And I think the more you let him talk and there's no reaction, probably he's going to be more willing to move towards you as well. So, there's so many layers to this. I wish I had some more details to give you some more specific direction, but I would recommend that you get in and do some couples work if you guys haven't already.
Okay, next question. And they said this might be triggering. So if you're triggered, please turn it off. My PA spouse has Peyronie's.
Mhm.
He told me today after seeing his doctor that the doctor said that he needed to ejaculate more to help. Since I view masturbation as immoral and wrong, his words, he did not know how he was going to heal unless I helped. He says, since I was there when he was injured, I was responsible to help fix it. He says that shower sex did it, but not positive. He's still denying being an addict. He has
Okay.
started therapy, not CSAT. How do I address his health issues?
Okay. That's a big one. I'm going to start with
Mm-hmm.
that. There's a lot going on there. I'm going to kind of start backwards on this question a little bit. The good thing is he started therapy. It would be nice if it was a CSAT so that they could maybe help guide your husband, through information and through, your husband's own discovery, right? That there is maybe some addict behaviors that are going on there, possibly an addiction. But it sounds like he's still in a lot of denial and he's in a lot of shame, is my guess, because the reason I'm thinking that is he's kind of shifting the blame and putting it back out on you. He's making you responsible for his health condition. It's going to require a lot of communication. And I imagine that this is an area where communication is going to be very, very difficult. It's going to be triggering for you as a betrayed partner. It's going to be hard to stay grounded. Again, this might be something that either the two of you need to go in and work with a couples therapist. I would recommend that you find somebody like a sexologist, somebody who has an advanced degree in that, who understands this. I know that we have a couple of therapists at my office that specialize in this area, and they are CSATs. So if you can find a CSAT who also does this kind of work, they're there to help with difficult issues like this, and helping you as a couple work together on how to communicate about it. So there's multi-layers. If you can't get him into a therapist's office, then maybe going to the doctors with him and being willing to go and learn more about it with him there is another option. Again, I know your hands are really tight on this. It must be very, very triggering. And, at this point, I think for you, reach out to other people. Don't just try to deal with this on your own, because you need to have somebody to talk with. So I'm hoping you've got a support group and that they are good at being able to support you and give you some ideas, on how you can stay grounded and what you might do, to support yourself.
And I would we say this all the time about addicts, don't trust anything he says. So he's told you the doctor said this. So I would absolutely want to talk to the doctor, and find out exactly what's going on. But yeah, if he's a sex addict, working with a therapist that isn't trained to work with, I said a little while ago, these are so complex issues. I mean, how you can go to a generalist therapist and think that you're going to get, the help that you need for these issues. So there's multiple things going on: the mental health aspect of the addiction, which it is, and then the physical aspects. But I don't know enough about Peyronie's, but I've heard enough that I've not ever heard that as being the cure. I'm no physician, so I'm not saying it is or isn't. I would sure want to know more before I believed anything that an addict husband is saying. So, but the blame shifting, you caused this. I'm sorry, it's attached to him. So I'm sorry, it's his issue. So I'm being as careful as I can, as non-triggering as possible. Okay, and last question quickly. How do betrayed spouses deal with yo-yoing of spouse? What will do whenever I need to heal, then back to victimize, blame shifting, then to doing whatever I need. Sometimes hourly switching. I try to keep space and point it out, but he continues. That's what I was kind of referring to. It's like, it's so hard to have them not go into a shame spiral. And, I just need you to show up, and blame shifting and everything else. So how do you do that?
Well, what I would recommend, if somebody came into my group and said that, I would, first of all, we would talk about the fact that sometimes you've got to step out of that and let your partner just kind of do that and be what we call the compassionate observer, which means, I know it's really hard. I just have to sit back and observe it and try not to judge myself and what's going on and judge the moment. But my recommendation would be also, you get support. You need to reach out and talk to other women. I find that women who've gone through betrayal and are healing and in recovery, they are great sources of how to manage this and handle this. My next thing to offer up would be really learning about boundaries, because there needs to be some boundaries put into place. And if we can find those healthy boundaries based on safety, and you can verbalize those boundaries in a way, then I think there's going to be less yo-yoing back and forth, because there's going to be a consequence. With a boundary, there's always a consequence. And in this recovery work, the consequence is typically, you're not safe for me to move towards because you're doing this behavior. So I have to step out of the relationship, or out of this conversation, or out of sleeping in the same bed with you, so that I can create safety for me, because right now you're not safe. And I find sometimes that when, betrayed partners get clear on how to set the healthy, appropriate kind of boundary, then sometimes all of a sudden, if they hold firm to that boundary, the betraying partner, the addict partner, all of a sudden, they're no longer yo-yoing and promising and all of that. And they have to deal sometimes with their own reality. That's a hard one, because for you, it's going to be so confusing, especially if they're blame shifting and then I'll do whatever you need me to do. And then they're back. A lot of that is their shame. Hopefully your betraying partner is seeing a therapist, again, a qualified therapist, so that, that can be addressed, because that is hard. That creates for me a lot of trauma.
Yeah, and if there's moments where you can, there's consequences. So let's call them maybe negatives for you not holding the boundaries. If there's any way that you can share, thank you for, well, you don't have to say thank you. When you show up for me like this, it does make me want to come closer to you. So it's kind of like the positive reinforcement. Like, I like this behavior. This one's not working for me. I like this one. So if there are things you can do where it's, it's feeling like that safety for both of you. But yeah, when it's the roller coaster, it's really difficult. But anything that could help make when he is doing positive, to affirm that, hopefully he would get the message that, oh, I should do more of that, so enjoy Utah. So
thank you.
Thank you all for showing up. I mentioned this earlier, the schedule for July is a little off. There's a lot of us traveling and on vacation. So check the schedule, because like the 17th, there won't be one of these on that Friday. I think it's the 17th, but anyway, check the schedule. But thank you all. Thank you, Debbie. See you
Bye.
in a few
Take
weeks,
care, everybody.
or see you soon. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.